Yeah, thank you, Ken. This is Shelby, and I'll say that my interface as far as seeing who's on the call is not there. So, Ken, if you can lead that up, that would be great. But definitely thanks, everybody, for joining and for being on the call. This is really important stuff as we move forward to this final push and move into big things.
Right. Okay. So I want to start off first. Excuse me, I've got some frog in my throat here. Excuse me. Yeah, that's better. So I want to start off, kind of report in where we're at right now with 1 month left to go in the petition drive, and then kind of talk about pivot to our backup plan, which is looking more and more likely we're going to have to get to it, is a legislative effort, which we're very encouraged about. But let me start off with the current status of the petition drive. We are way behind where we ought to be or need to be at this stage, and with just 1 month to go, we have not yet even hit 50% of our minimum. So we've done, we run the numbers a couple of different ways. The state Secretary of State tells us how many signatures we need in every county to get the minimum amount, to get to the 15% threshold. So we know for each county what that minimum number is. We set a goal of a good bit above that because we know that if we had exactly the minimum in every county, we would probably not make it because we'll lose some signatures due to people signing twice or signing with the wrong address or they've moved or whatever. There'll be some legitimate reasons why some signatures wouldn't count. So we set a goal for each county of about 20% rather than 15% of your county's the vote from your county. So the reports that we're getting, we look at it both ways. We look at progress towards goal, but also we look at progress towards the minimum amount. So I want to report, so far we have, I'm looking at the report compared to goal. We have, our goal was about 50,000 signatures. We are at 16,664 right now, which is about a third of the goal, which is well short of where we need to be. But the good news is we have two counties that have met their goal, that Sheridan and Johnson have both met their goal, and Bighorn's pretty close to meeting their goal. So we've got three counties that have done fantastic work and are nearly to their goal. But when we go to report this to the Secretary of State, and also when we go and report it to the legislature, which is our next effort, we're going to show them progress towards the minimum. How many counties have made their minimums? And actually, Bighorn has made their minimums. Bighorn, the minimum needed, according to the Secretary of State, is 811. They've got 922. They're 100 signatures over their minimum, which is great. So we have three counties over their minimum and two more counties that are at 95 or 97% of their goal. So Albany County is at 95% of the minimum. Fremont County is at 97% of minimum. So those two counties in the last month, I'm very certain, are going to get those last few signatures. So we will have at least 5 counties that are above the minimum they need to be on our list of the 16 counties that meet the goal. So that's good, but we need 16 counties to get to that threshold, and only 5 are there now. Sublette County is at 60%. Laramie County is at 53%, and that's doing pretty well because Laramie has the biggest number they've got to get. Their minimum is 6,207. They've got 3,298, which is more than half of what they need. And that's fantastic because 3,000 signatures is the most signatures of any county, and there's a lot of legislators in Laramie County that can say, Laramie County is behind this. So when we go talk to the legislatures, we'll be able to say, and to all of those the entire Laramie County delegation, your county is behind this, and they want this to happen. So but when we keep adding signatures, we're getting more and more clout with the legislature. So we're at 43% of the minimum needed, and now that numbers are going up faster and faster as we get things turned in, the petitions that we haven't seen yet are being turned in finally. These numbers are going to go up pretty rapidly, I think, for the next month. But I'm afraid not rapidly enough to get us all the way over the top. So we're still pushing. We're still gathering signatures because, as we're going to talk about in a second, the legislative strategy depends somewhat on having as many signatures as possible to walk in and say, look at how many people signed this. And the more signatures we have, the more persuasion we'll have with the legislature. So we do think that it's still important to keep pushing hard, get as many signatures as we can. If we can get a couple more counties over the minimum, that's going to be very persuasive. The other thing that I think is going to be very persuasive is that if we had this number of signatures, but we were in any other state in the country that allows petition drives, allows citizens initiatives, we'd be on the ballot right now. Most states require 5%, ones I think 3%, most are like 5%, 7%. We have that right now in hand. Wyoming requires 15%, the highest number of any state. So we'll be able to go in with some credibility and say, if we were any other state, we'd be on the ballot right now. So please, can we get some help here from the legislature to get it either get it on the ballot or just get it adopted by the legislature. So that's where we are with the numbers. Let me just, before I go on to the next thing, are there any questions from anybody about the numbers report? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands go up. So the next thing I wanted to talk to is the end game. If we were going to turn these in to the state Secretary of State, we would do that just about exactly 1 month from today. So we have 1 month to finish this up, and obviously we need some time before a month from today to get all the petitions in hand, organized, counted, entered into the data, and that sort of thing. So the urgency is to get the petitions in hand as soon as possible. We've gathered a bunch of them. I think I have about 15,000 of the signatures in my basement right now. There's still a few out there that have been entered into the database, but I don't have the physical petition in my hand. And there's a lot of physical petitions that I don't think have ever been entered into data yet. So that's why I do feel fairly confident that we're going to get significantly more than the 16,600 we now have. But we need to get those petitions in hand and mailed to me, so that I'll have them all available to, if we do turn them in to the Secretary of State, we'll all have them in one place. So for the county team leaders on the call, there's a few of you who are county team leaders. Please continue to talk to your circulators, get them to finish up their signatures, get it notarized and turned in, and then entered into data. For the data managers on the call, if you are one of our data managers, please be sure to enter everything into Van before you send it on to me. It's really important to have it all in Van, because even if we don't get to the total that we need, we are going to want to produce a report, which we can do with our computer, saying this is how many people in each legislative district have signed the petition. So we can go to individual legislators and say, see, we've got 253 people in your district who signed this petition, or we've got 1,000 people in your district who have signed this petition, whatever the numbers are. We can go specifically by the legislative district to talk to our legislators and tell them how many of their constituents have signed our petition and want this to happen. So that's why it's really important to get the data entered into Van as soon as we can get it entered, and then send the final petition on to me so that we'll all have them in one place. So are there any questions about how we're going to proceed with that?
No questions, Ken. Just a comment in saying that it is very important to get the physical petitions back to us. That's part of the end game, and so we really want to get all of those back and accounted for, because we may have 16 or 17 or 18,000 signatures in van, but if we don't get the physical petitions, we will not have those numbers officially recorded. That is all.
Right. So like I said, if we end up having to rely on our legislative strategy, then it's going to be really important to have as many numbers as we can, especially in certain key districts. We want to be able to say to some key legislators, these are the number of people that have signed of your constituents who vote for you. This is how many people want this. And I have to say this too. Let me just say that I don't know where we're going to end up with numbers. I'm fairly certain we'll be north of 20,000. How far north of that, I don't know, but that's a lot of signatures. That's more signatures than any of these legislators have ever gotten as votes in their districts. So they're going to be impressed by that number. Most House members will get 3,000 or 4,000 votes, or 5,000 maybe in a bigger district, and that's enough to win. The senators might get 10,000, 15,000 votes, and that's enough to win. We're going to have more than that for the statewide. So they're going to be impressed with the number of petitions, signatures that we have. So it's really important to get all the signatures entered so that we'll be able to go to the legislature and say, this is how many people have signed, and look at how much energy there is behind this effort statewide. Okay, still not seeing any questions, so let me just move on to the final topic I wanted to bring up, and that is the important one, and the one that we're going to be needing some help with, and everybody on this call we're going to be asking for some help to get this done, and that is our backup plan. Since it's looking very likely that we're not going to get 38,818 signatures, we don't want to let all this effort go for nothing. We want to use the petitions that we do have, and like I said, it's a big number, to try and get a bill through the state legislature come this January. This session coming up is a general session, so this is the time to do stuff like this. And we have a fairly good, well-developed strategy to approach the legislature, and I think we have a realistic chance of getting this done. Just some background for those of you who are new to this effort and don't know where this all started. We started this whole thing actually 2 years ago in January, when Shelby and Lynn and I drafted a bill called an Act to promote free and fair elections. We got it introduced in the legislature. It was just three of us. We had no idea what we were doing. We're brand new to this stuff. None of us have any experience doing this. We found a sponsor. He introduced it. We got it assigned to the Corporations Committee. It was passed by the Corporation Committee with a due pass recommendation sent to the floor of the House. And there it died only because we started too late. It took us a while to find the sponsor and took a while to get through the drafting process. So by the time we got it introduced, it was late in the session, and therefore they ran out of time. So it was never voted down, never lost a vote. It was the only vote that was taken on it was a positive vote. So that's why we think there's a pretty good chance of this passing. We think it's actually an even better chance this year because the gubernatorial race in the primary, there was a lot of monkey business going on with dark money on both sides. There's a lot of dark money groups actively working against the current Republican candidate. There was a lot of dark money out there against him. There was some dark money on the left encouraging Democratic voters to switch over to the Republican side and vote in favor of the Mark Gordon. So both sides threw some dark money into the gubernatorial race, And there's a lot of people, especially mostly Republicans, who are hopping mad about it, which, okay, we don't like dark money either, so let's take that energy and turn it into action. And that's what we're trying to do here. So we think that we have a fairly receptive legislature because of what happened in the Republican primary for governor. So our strategy right now is twofold. We're going to try and get two different bills introduced, one in the House, one in the Senate. The bill that we want to have introduced in the House is basically our act to promote free and fair elections. Just ask the legislature to adopt it as is and get it done, and that would be the best outcome for us. And we know that we have Dan Zwanitzer, who is the chair of the Corporations Committee in the House, who got it through his committee and onto the floor 2 years ago, is actively supporting us. He will be the prime sponsor unless he finds another person who wants to be the prime sponsor. So we know that we're going to get it introduced, and we're probably going to have it introduced on day one this time. So it's going to be we won't have the timing problem that we ran into 2 years ago, and we know that he's going to be able to push it through his committee early to make sure we get a vote on the House floor. And if we get a vote on the House floor, which is positive, then it goes over to the Senate, and then we'll have we have some challenges in the Senate because the Senate Corporation Committee is not, as currently made up, is not real friendly. But we are working a plan to hopefully get the Senate. There's going to be a new Senate president, and we're going to work with him in the next month or two to see if he could assign the bill to a different committee where it has a better chance of getting through committee. So we've got some strategies on how to do that. So that's one effort. The other effort is hopefully we haven't yet found a Senate sponsor, but we do want to. We have some ideas about Senate sponsors, and the Senate bill is going to be not to directly enact our bill, but to put it on the ballot for 2020. So we have this petition drive to get it on the ballot, and if we don't succeed in getting enough signatures, we're going to ask the legislature to put it on the ballot for us. They can do that. We could say, look, we got pretty far. We got a lot of signatures. Why don't you just let it go on the ballot, and we'll be on the ballot in 2020? And that's the bill that we would introduce, hopefully, in the Senate. And if that goes, if the House bill doesn't pass, maybe we still have another chance with the Senate bill to get it on the ballot and have the voters do this in 2020, which is what we would have gotten had we gotten enough signatures. So those are our two strategies to try and get some legislative help here. And we think that there's a fairly good chance. We've already identified a number of House members, representatives who will be co-sponsors. So we may have as many as 7 or 8 or 9 Republican co-sponsors, probably a few Democratic co-sponsors as well. So the bill will hopefully have a lot of clout walking in because there's going to be a lot of good people behind it. And we're still working right now to try and find additional sponsors, and Dan Zwanitzer is also going to be working on helping to find more sponsors as well. So we're pretty excited about our option. The other thing that we're excited about, and this is something I want to let everybody know is going on, we have the steering committee has made a decision to hire a lobbyist to help us out. Because Shelby and I, when we were trying to shepherd this thing through 2 years ago, realized that the only way to get anything done over there is to get in somebody's face. Emails are ignored. Phone calls are never returned. The only way to ever get anything done is to be physically in that building and buttonhole the legislators and talk to them face to face, and then things happen. That's the only way things ever happen. Now, I have a full-time job, and Shelby has a full-time job, and we don't have the ability to be over there on a daily basis, but lobbyists are. So we have identified a lobbyist, Lori Urbakite, who is excited about this project. She's very much on board with what we're trying to do. She works primarily for the Board of Realtors over there, but she has some side clients, and we would be one of her side clients, and she will be helping us out. She knows she has relationships with most of these legislators, so she can talk to them, and they respect her. And we've checked her out with some of the legislators that are friendly to us, and they say, yeah, she's good. They like her. She's got a lot of credibility. So we're going to be hiring her. It's going to cost us $10,000, which we don't have yet, although we have some of that. So we are going to be doing some fundraising in the next few months to try and raise the money that we need to pay her. But we think with that additional on-premise, physically in the Capitol building every day presence, that's going to help us keep track of where the bill is and keep things moving for us. So we think there's a really, really good chance of getting something done, and that's our strategy. The last piece of our strategy, I see there's a hand up. I'll call on Christy in just a second. The last piece I wanted to mention before we open it up for questions and conversation is that we are going to be in touch with everybody on this call and everybody who's not on the call, the county team leaders, all of our volunteers, all of our circulators. We are going to want to have every volunteer who is willing to make phone calls to legislatures starting in January. Once we have the bill introduced, we will develop some talking points, and we will develop a strategy for how to approach your legislator. We'll do some training sessions like these phone calls to help people craft a message to be able to talk to your legislator and encourage them to vote yes. So we will be back in touch even after the petition drive is over. We're going to be back in touch with everybody to keep this going forward to the legislature. And we will be very happy to have everybody here and lots of other people who we know to join us and help us talk to our legislators. Legislators listen to their constituents more than they do to lobbyists, I think, so it's really important to have constituents making phone calls. Okay, so that's where we are. I wanted to open it up. If you have a question, please type 1 on your keypad. And Christy, you raised your hand, and you're now unmuted. What's your question?
Hi, can you hear me, Ken?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Could you please repeat again the address where you want the petition sent to for everybody's sake?
Yes, you can send them to my house, which is 4317 Cliff Street, like jumping off a cliff, Laramie, Wyoming, 82070. And please make sure that before we send them, make sure that they are notarized, that the circulator has signed that last page in front of a notary, because we can't turn them in to the legislature, to the Secretary of State's office, unless they're notarized.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
All right. So, are there other questions, comments, thoughts, concerns?
Ken, this is Shelby. I'll just chime in a little bit here and just say that I really appreciate Bryant LeMay from Wolfpack being on the call. I believe that if we're going to gear up for this kind of second phase in our effort here in the state with the legislature, Bryant's great to have on the call, and being in touch with him and folks at Wolfpack and folks that have experience with this is good. We are going to try to get this lobbyist, and that will take some more fundraising. So everybody that is on the call, just know that we will be putting out asks probably to help us with that. But also consider coming to the legislative session if you're able to, even one day, even for a committee meeting, even for a floor vote. One day can make a lot of difference. There's folks that are doing this in Colorado, in Montana, and all across the country right now, just as we're doing it. So I think keeping in touch with Wolfpack and what they're doing is important, and helping us with fundraising is also important. you can donate at wyomingpromise.org and encourage your volunteers to do that as we continue to move forward. I think that's all I have to say for now.
Okay, good. And I do want to give another shout out to Wolfpack for they've been very supportive so far, and including we've had several Wolfpack volunteers from other states come through and do some circulating for us. We had somebody from Colorado come up to the state fair and helped us out there. We've had people from Boulder coming up to Cheyenne to help out, but the biggest one I think is Amanda Groziak, who was moving from New York City to California, decided to stop here in Wyoming for about a week or more, and we found a place for her to stay with one of our volunteers in Jackson, where we didn't have a lot of effort going on, and she got about 350 signatures herself, or 400 signatures herself, in Teton, which is fantastic. That's going to triple the amount of signatures we had in Teton. And then I think she's now currently, I believe she's in Cheyenne for a few days doing some more. So she's been fantastic, and just a Wolfpack volunteer that has been extremely helpful to us. So we're very grateful to Wolfpack for all their support. And as Shelby said, Wolfpack is working on this issue nationwide, has a lot of talking points and training materials that we may want to tap into when we get into making pitches to the legislatures. We'll probably borrow or tap into some of the Wolfpack materials to help with that. So, Bryant, thank you for all the support that Wolfpack has given us so far, and look forward to continuing to work with you when we hit our legislative session come January, first week of January. Okay, let me just unmute Bryant. Is there anything, Bryant, you want to say about how Wolfpack can help us with the legislative effort?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, thank you. I mean, that was extremely kind words. I really appreciate everything that you said about Wolfpack. We obviously love you guys as well. Really glad that for all of the allies that we have in this fight. And no, I mean, look, like I mentioned earlier, I want to make sure that I can be the main point of contact for you to kind of, get the word to our volunteers. That way, it's a relatively easy process for you. So, if there is a specific event or, location that volunteers should be going to, you can send me that information. I'll try to have we have someone who handles all of our social media posts. I'll try to communicate with her to make sure that we are, sharing that information with our volunteers. And yeah, I mean, I think that's it. Just let me know how we can help spread the word, and I'd be more than happy to, do our best to help you out with that.
Okay. Well, thank you. We'll look forward to continuing to work with you guys, and one way or another, we're going to get this done.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, good. All right.
Go ahead, quick,
Ken.
I just want to chime in there and just say to Bryant, everybody in Wyoming, we've done something that is quite amazing. And if Wyoming goes for this and we get this passed through the legislature or the ballot initiative, that's a sea change. That's a sea change in the country. And it's going to show everybody this is truly a cross-partisan issue. And we can get it, if we can get it done in Wyoming, we can get it done anywhere in the nation. And we will get it done ultimately. So I know everybody gets a little burned out from here and there, as well as myself, but let's finish strong and stay strong as we move forward in this effort. So that's all I have to say in closing.
Okay, good. Jen, I'm going to throw the mic to you for just a second. Jen Lorenz is one of our statewide field organizers, and she's been helping out with some of the effort. Jen, you're unmuted. Is there anything you'd like to say for the good of the order here? Jen, are you there? Jen, your phone unmuted on your end. Okay.
It is now.
There you are. I hear you now.
Yes.
Anything you want to say for the assembled people here?
No, just efforts are it's really great to see. I mean, it's been a long haul for everyone, and all of the final numbers that we can calculate in there, as it's been said, the more we can get, the stronger our argument is with the legislature. So keep it up.
Okay. So, are there any questions from anybody before we call it? Before we break up here? I'm not seeing any hands up right now. Okay, there's Christy again. Hang on a second. Let me get you unmuted here. Okay, Christy, go ahead.
So Ken, I'm sorry, but I'm not the best record keeper, and I'm not positive that all of the petitions I've got have been sent in to you guys. Are you double checking before you put them in a pile that, you know, at least the first few have been entered at all, or how are you doing that? Because we don't have a data wrangler in Gillette.
Yeah, what I've been doing when I get them in, I'm usually asking the team leader or whoever sends it to me, have these been entered? And if you're not sure, when I ask you that question, then we can have one of our data managers here in Laramie look them over and see if they're entered or not. So far, I think everybody has had theirs entered. So the 15,000 that I have in my basement right now, I believe are already all in Van. But if you send me some more, we can double check and make sure that they are. And if they're not, we will get them entered.
Okay, because, you know, some people sent you pictures of their petitions, and, right, you know, I'm not sure if the right person got them, et cetera.
Yeah, so when I got the pictures of some of those petitions, I sent them on to our data wrangler. So those, I'm sure, have been entered.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. All right. So are there any other questions? Type 1 on your keypad if you have a question for us or a comment. Okay, I'm not seeing anything, so let me just close by saying thank you to everybody on this call. This has been a long haul. We're getting close to the end, and even if we don't make it all the way to the top of the mountain, we've gotten pretty high and gotten a good look around, and it's a great foundation for the next step, which is to convince the legislature that, yes, this is something that we need to do in Wyoming. This is a bipartisan thing. We have way more Republicans signing these petitions than Democrats, and therefore all of the work that we've done is going towards a good cause and hopefully will still lead us to success, maybe not as directly as we'd hoped it would, but I think there's a very good chance that with a strong effort in January and February, we very well might get this done through the legislature. So thank you all for your great work and your hard work. I know it's been tough. Democracy is not easy. It's not meant to be easy. And therefore, I'm so proud of everybody who's done all this work to get us as far as we've gotten, and look forward to keeping the momentum going and getting this done. So thank you all for joining the call, and we will be in touch as we move forward. We'll have a final number for you here in a couple of weeks or a month, and then we'll let you know what's going on with the legislative effort. So keep up the good work, everybody. Get those petitions in, and thank you all. Goodbye.
Thank you all, Shelby, and yeah, just keep up the work, keep up the effort. Let's push through, and great work, and feel free to keep in touch at any time. So thank you.
Bye-bye.
You are currently the only person in this conference.